The mistress tricked the millionaire, but his pregnant wife had the final move. Michael Harrington was a man who seemingly had it all: intelligence, riches, a thriving empire, and a wife who was about to give birth to their first child. Yet behind the glimmering facade of the Harrington fortune lurked shadows of secrecy and betrayal. One chance meeting with an alluring stranger named Eva Castillo threatened to topple the life he and his pregnant wife Emma had painstakingly built as greed and desperation ignited hidden agendas. No one could predict just how far betrayal would go, or just how fiercely a determined wife would fight back. This is a tale of love lies, and the final shocking move that changed everything. Michael Harrington was born into a world that did not promise him wealth. Growing up in a modest two-bedroom apartment in Dayton, Ohio, he was raised by parents who worked tirelessly, his mother as a teacher and his father as a mechanic, to ensure their only son had food on the table and a roof over his head. From an early age, Michael knew he wanted more than a paycheck-to-paycheck lifestyle. He wanted the world at his feet. It was during a high school business club field trip to New York City that he first caught a glimpse of the lifestyle he coveted: the soaring skyscrapers of Manhattan, the polished suits, the hush of big-money deals happening behind gilded doors. He became mesmerized by power and prosperity. A single day in the city lit an unquenchable fire in his heart. He would be more than just another ordinary kid from Ohio. Michael channeled his ambition into academic excellence, eventually securing a full scholarship to Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania. There he distinguished himself not only through top grades, but also a fearless approach to networking. He attended conferences, engaged in internships, and mingled with business giants, people like Warren Buffett and Jamie Dimon, whenever opportunities arose. The moment he graduated, Michael was determined to leave an indelible mark on the finance and real estate sectors. Armed with a persuasive smile, an uncanny ability to spot undervalued properties, and a knack for closing deals, Michael ventured to Miami and founded Harrington Holdings, operating initially out of a cramped shared office space. He spent days pounding the pavement to find distressed properties and nights on the phone seeking out investors. Through determination, timely decisions, and a bit of luck, Michael built up a robust real estate portfolio. Within 7 years, Harrington Holdings was turning heads in Florida's cutthroat property market. His success story drew press coverage with magazines like Forbes and Bloomberg Businessweek, highlighting his meteoric rise. In glossy photos, Michael Harrington appeared every inch the suave millionaire, tall, well-groomed, and sharp-eyed. He also possessed a warmth that stood out among colder, stiffer CEOs. This warmth, ironically, was what drew Emma Corbett to him and changed both their lives. Emma Corbett was no stranger to ambition. She grew up in a lower-middle-class neighborhood in Tampa, Florida. Her parents, a nurse and a grocery store manager, instilled in her a sense of practicality and kindness. Emma excelled academically and secured admission to the University of Florida. She pursued her passion for journalism, hoping one day to expose real-world issues that truly mattered. She pictured herself traveling around the globe to shed light on injustice, poverty, and anything else that needed a voice. Fate had other plans. During a fundraiser event in Miami, Emma, then a junior reporter for a local newspaper, was assigned to cover a high-profile real estate gathering. She was used to covering stories on small businesses, so being thrust into a room full of power brokers and millionaires made her nerve endings sizzle with excitement and anxiety. That evening, Michael Harrington was the event's center of attention, having just purchased and renovated a long-abandoned Art Deco hotel on South Beach. He spoke passionately, about preserving Miami's architectural heritage while building modern, vibrant communities. There was something genuinely heartfelt in his approach, and Emma found herself captivated. Emma introduced herself, voice trembling slightly, as she prepared to ask him questions about the philanthropic angle of his real estate investments. Michael, noticing her nerves, turned on his characteristic charm. Instead of brushing off the young reporter, he engaged her, gave thorough answers, and even complimented her on her thoughtful questions. Emma's article ended up highlighting Michael's dedication to community development and garnering him positive media attention. At the piece's publication party, Michael surprised Emma with a bouquet of roses. One friendly chat led to another, culminating in a dinner date overlooking the Miami skyline. Their romance was an immediate whirlwind. Michael found solace in her grounded outlook on life, so different from the superficial glitz he encountered daily in business circles, and Emma was drawn to his charismatic brand of ambition. After only a year of dating, Michael proposed during a sunset cruise on Biscayne Bay, presenting an elegant diamond ring that sparkled almost as brightly as Emma's eyes. They were married in a heartfelt ceremony at a small chapel, followed by a reception at the newly restored Art Deco hotel that had brought them together in the first place. Friends and family smiled approvingly, convinced that these two were soulmates, destined to be a strong power couple. Years passed, and Michael's empire continued to expand. He purchased condos in downtown Miami. Old warehouses he turned into trendy commercial spaces, and even began eyeing an international foray into luxury developments in the Caribbean. Media outlets hailed him as the Florida real estate golden boy, and his influence grew beyond property lines. He became a regular panel speaker at investor conferences, rubbing elbows with visionaries such as Bill Gates and Elon Musk. Emma, for her part, had scaled back her journalistic ambitions to focus on philanthropic endeavors. She managed the Harrington Foundation, channeling millions of dollars toward education and housing reforms in underserved communities. From the outside, the Harringtons epitomized marital harmony. They were photographed arm in arm at charity galas, philanthropic events, and the occasional celebrity-studded soiree on Fisher Island. Emma's compassionate perspective on social issues complemented Michael's keen business sense, painting a picture of synergy that was rare in high society couples. Indeed, many envied their love story, two hearts that had found each other amidst the hustle, united by a shared goal of making the world a better place. Their inner circle, however, knew the demands on Michael were growing. Harrington Holdings was no longer just a scrappy startup. It was a massive operation requiring careful oversight. The more success Michael achieved, the more meetings, travel, and obligations consumed him. He morphed from a man who showered Emma with personal attention into a distant figure who sometimes forgot date nights and rarely had time for leisurely weekends at home. Despite the growing tensions, Emma found solace in her volunteer work and focused on building a family. After several years of marriage, they decided the time was right to have a child. News of her pregnancy brought a bright glow back to Emma's life, rekindling in Michael a flicker of the joy that once burned brightly. But as business soared, his mind was perpetually half-occupied, restless and hungry for the next big deal. It was on a humid Miami afternoon, at a private investor conference held at the lavish Mandarin Oriental Hotel, that Michael first encountered Ava Castillo. She was introduced by a mutual acquaintance, a venture capitalist based in Silicon Valley, who claimed Ava was a potential investor in Michael's upcoming luxury resort project in Antigua. Ava Castillo exuded an otherworldly charm, tall, slender, with raven black hair and eyes like polished onyx. She carried herself with an air of composed elegance. Rumor had it that she had inherited a substantial fortune from her late father an international shipping tycoon, and was looking to diversify her portfolio through strategic real estate investments. Michael's Antigua project seemed like a perfect fit. As they shook hands, Michael sensed her confidence almost like a tangible aura. During the conference, she asked incisive questions about the resort's sustainability features, the local job market it would create, and expected returns. She spoke knowledgeably of property laws in the Caribbean, referencing her own experiences with villas in St. Bart's and the Dominican Republic. For Michael, business had always been about striking the right chords of synergy, and Ava's interest felt like a windfall. But the synergy extended beyond just business. The more they conversed, the more Michael noticed her melodic laugh, her effortless sophistication, the subtle perfume she wore that seemed to stir something buried within him. She wasn't merely an investor, she was an enigma. He found himself looking forward to their next meeting, a mix of both business and personal curiosity simmering within him. In the days following the conference, Michael and Ava exchanged countless emails and phone calls. They discussed potential terms for her investment and hammered out the architectural vision for the Antigua resort. Ava's suggestions on everything from the color palette for the suites to the possibility of featuring a Michelin-starred chef were not only creative, but also financially sound. Michael, feeling a renewed vigor in these discussions, invited Ava to dinner at a high-end Japanese restaurant in Miami's Brickell district. He reasoned it was strictly for business. After all, her potential investment was significant, 8 figures at least. Yet beneath the professional veneer, a slow but undeniable emotional current was running its course. At dinner, they spoke about more than real estate. Ava recounted her upbringing in Barcelona, the heartbreak of losing her father, and her experiences traveling the world. She had spent summers in Monaco, winters in Aspen, and had a knack for describing these places in ways that made them feel vivid and alive. When Michael mentioned Emma, it was only in passing, a cursory mention of my wife, when the conversation veered towards philanthropic work. He tried to maintain propriety, but the spark in Ava's eyes kept him lingering at the table long after their official business was done. By the time the waiter cleared the dessert plates, both felt the night was too young to part ways. They ended up strolling along the bay, the city lights reflected in the calm waters, words flowing between them with dangerous ease. It happened slowly. Then suddenly, their shoulders brushed, and Ava's hand found his. She peered into his eyes, and in that moment, Michael's resolve crumbled. He was a man used to taking what he wanted: business deals, success, admiration. Now faced with a temptation that fed his ego and awakened a restless longing, he gave in to a moment that would change everything. Emma noticed subtle shifts in her husband's behavior. For one, Michael's phone seemed glued to his hand. Text alerts would light up the screen at odd hours, and a faint smirk often accompanied him as he typed replies. Additionally, his business trips became more frequent and lasted longer. When Emma asked why, Michael muttered vague excuses about complicated negotiations and new clients needing extra attention. What truly alarmed Emma was the emotional distance. Once a man who always kissed her goodbye in the morning and called her for quick lunchtime chats, Michael became abrupt and dismissive. She tried to be understanding. He was under monumental pressure and expecting their first child. But pregnancy hormones, combined with the sense that something intangible was shifting in the wind, left Emma anxious. One evening, as she tried to share updates about the Harrington Foundation's plan to open a new community center, Michael barely responded. He was preoccupied with reading emails on his phone, nodding absently to Emma's words. Finally, she ventured. "Michael, is everything okay? You've been so distant lately." He glanced up, eyes flickering with mild irritation. "It's just work, Emma. The Antigua deal is massive. I need to see it through. I'm sorry if I've been distant, but this is crucial for our future." Emma offered a forced smile. "Okay," she said softly, heart uneasy. She reached out to place a gentle hand on her belly. "Remember, we're in this together. You can tell me anything." Michael cleared his throat, patted her hand, and returned to his emails. That night, Emma lay awake, long after Michael had fallen asleep, unable to banish her suspicions. Behind closed doors, Eva Castillo was more than a wealthy investor. She was a cunning strategist, finely attuned to the vulnerabilities of powerful men. Since inheriting her fortune, she had floated through high society circles, worldwide, using her inheritance to buy access, yet always craving a sense of true power. She had learned early on that money, while abundant, didn't always grant the influence she desired. True power, she realized, often lived behind the scenes, controlling the hearts and minds of those in charge. Michael Harrington was her ideal target. Successful, handsome, revered, yet clearly unfulfilled. She recognized in him the same restless hunger that gnawed at her own psyche. But Ava's ambition ran deeper. She wanted more than a fling or a fleeting connection. She wanted control, and she knew how to get it. After their first night of intimacy, Ava ramped up her charm. She lavished Michael with thoughtful messages, praising his work ethic and the genius of his real estate vision. She showed up at his office, unexpectedly, with gourmet coffee or tickets to exclusive events, each time playing the role of an investor who just couldn't get enough of the development details. Michael, intoxicated by her attention, sank deeper into the affair. He told himself it was a release from stress, that Emma didn't understand his day-to-day struggles the way Ava did. Yet in moments of honesty, he felt pangs of guilt about betraying his pregnant wife. He tried to ignore these pangs, burying them beneath a newfound desire that seemed unstoppable. Ava had done her homework. She knew about Michael's background, his philanthropic stances, even small details like his preference for Haitian coffee. She used all of it to weave a narrative that they were kindred spirits. Underneath, though, she had a bigger plan in mind, one that involved leveraging her connection with him for financial and personal gain. The first hint of scandal came from Michael's assistant, a sharp woman named Valerie Anderson, who had worked with him since the early days of Harrington Holdings. Valerie was fiercely protective of the company's reputation and of Emma, who had always treated her kindly. She noticed irregularities in Michael's schedule, extended lunches with a certain Miss Castillo, last-minute flight bookings that seemed outside the normal business scope, and hush-hush phone calls behind closed doors. Valerie confided in Emma one afternoon. They were at the Harrington Foundation's newly acquired community center, sorting donations for an upcoming charity drive. Keeping her voice low, Valerie said, "Emma, I think we need to talk about Michael." A wave of dread washed over Emma. She set down the baby clothes she was folding. "What is it?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Valerie hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "There's been someone he's meeting a lot. A potential investor named Ava Castillo. But I've seen how they look at each other. It's more than business." Emma's heart thundered in her chest. Her stomach churned with nausea, a mix of morning sickness and emotional turmoil. "Are you sure?" she managed to say. Valerie nodded, pain in her expression. "I don't want to overstep, but I care about you, and I know Michael. Something isn't right." Emma swallowed hard, a swirl of confusion and betrayal enveloping her. She forced a brave face and thanked Valerie for her concern. Yet as soon as Valerie left, Emma collapsed in a chair, tears welling in her eyes. She had always suspected something was amiss. but hearing it confirmed by someone she trusted felt like a punch to the gut. Determined to uncover the truth, Emma decided she would not remain passive. She hired a private investigator, a retired detective named Samuel Sam Morrow, with a recommendation from a close friend, Sam. A no-nonsense professional in his 50s listened intently to Emma's concerns and promised discretion. Within days, Sam began trailing Michael and Ava. He documented secret lunches, suspiciously long drives to luxury condos, and one particularly damning photograph of them entering a boutique hotel together. Though Sam avoided capturing explicit moments, the evidence was undeniable. Sam's final report, delivered in a plain black binder, confirmed Emma's worst fears. Michael was entangled in an affair with Ava Castillo. On top of that, Sam caught wind of background rumors swirling around Ava. Something about shady financial dealings in Europe, and allegations that her father's fortune was not as legitimate as she portrayed. While no official charges existed, whispers of blackmail and embezzlement trailed her like a persistent shadow. Emma was devastated. She was pregnant, newly aware of the greatest betrayal she could imagine, and uncertain what to do next. But in Emma Harrington, heartbreak often sparked clarity. She decided she needed more than just personal retribution. She needed to protect her unborn child's future and the philanthropic work she cherished. If Ava Castillo was as cunning as she seemed, Emma needed a strategic approach to outmaneuver her. Emma's chance to gather more information arrived in the form of the Harrington Foundation's annual gala, held at the newly renovated Rosewood Ballroom in downtown Miami. The event promised a star-studded guest list: local politicians, philanthropists, celebrities, and of course Michael's high-rolling investors. Although Emma was heartbroken, she put on a dazzling couture gown and presented herself as the gracious hostess, greeting guests with warmth and sincerity. Her pregnancy was evident, and many well-wishers congratulated her, unaware of the turmoil in her personal life. As she circulated among the attendees, Emma spotted Ava Castillo stepping into the ballroom, clad in an eye-catching red gown. Her arrival caused ripples of speculation. Few recognized her, and many wondered who she was. Michael, who had just finished speaking with the mayor about a new downtown development, caught sight of Ava and made his way to greet her. Emma felt a jolt of rage welling up, but she composed herself, slipping into the role of the supportive hostess. She made her way to the bar area where she could discreetly observe their interaction. Like clockwork, Ava placed a hand on Michael's arm, leaning in to whisper something that made him smile. Emma's jaw tightened. She noticed that Ava seemed to be scanning the crowd, as if looking for someone Emma could guess, who the big fish, those with immense wealth, or possibly the next target for her manipulations. Or perhaps she sought Emma herself. If Ava wanted a confrontation, Emma was prepared. Later in the evening, Emma approached Ava with a seemingly cordial smile. "Good evening, Ms. Castillo. I've heard a lot about your prospective investments." Ava turned eyes flickering momentarily with surprise before settling into a guarded expression. "Emma Harrington. I presume it's wonderful to finally meet you in person." Her tone dripped with politeness, but there was an underlying tension that crackled between them. Emma watched as Michael, standing a few feet away, shifted uncomfortably, uncertain whether to join the conversation. Ava glanced his way and then faced Emma again, a hint of a knowing smirk appearing. For a moment, Emma considered confronting her directly, but this wasn't the time or place. The gala was meant to help the Harrington Foundation, not air private drama. So Emma kept her composure, exchanging polite pleasantries with Ava. "I'm glad we have a new ally for Harrington Holdings," she said. "My husband speaks highly of your keen business sense." Ava's eyes gleamed. "He's too kind," she said sweetly. "I'm just eager to expand my portfolio and possibly other aspects of life here in Miami." Emma swallowed the bitter taste in her mouth and simply nodded. In that moment, a new surge of determination ignited within her. She decided this woman, no matter how cunning, would not destroy the life Emma had built. Unbeknownst to Emma, Ava had already begun weaving a more complex trap. She casually hinted to Michael that she might be pregnant. The revelations were not explicit, just cryptic comments about fatigue, dizzy spells, and missing her usual glass of wine with dinner. When pressed, Ava would coyly dismiss it as nothing feigning embarrassment. Michael's reaction was predictably frantic. The possibility of fathering a child outside his marriage terrified him, yet Ava never confirmed or denied anything outright, leaving him in a state of constant anxiety. In private moments, Ava would mention doctor's appointments that she might schedule soon, or how her father's estate lawyers once handled paternity claims discreetly. Michael found himself dancing on hot coals, torn between the guilt of betrayal and a fear that his entire reputation and finances could be at stake if Ava's pregnancy were real. But every time he demanded clarity, she artfully changed the subject, or grew tearful, leaving him feeling too guilty to push. As the days went on, Ava's tactic worked perfectly, rendering Michael more submissive to her demands. She brought up new expansions in the Caribbean, urging him to invest more of his personal funds alongside hers. She asked for deeper roles in Harrington Holdings, saying it was necessary to protect her potential child's interests. She even convinced Michael to sign certain preliminary documents, though he insisted they not be made official until after she confirmed the pregnancy. Ava was playing a precarious game, balancing illusions and half-truths. Yet she thrived on such manipulations. She had studied Michael's personality and knew that if she dangled the notion of carrying his child, fear and guilt would guide his decisions more than logic. Emma was not idle. Armed with the knowledge from Sam's investigation, she quietly consulted with the Harrington Holdings legal team, specifically her longtime friend and attorney, Rebecca Greenfield. Rebecca was privy to the Harringtons' prenuptial agreement, which had certain unique clauses to protect each spouse's philanthropic interests and future children. Emma had never thought she'd need to invoke such protections, but now she prepared for any eventuality. The contract states that, in the event of infidelity leading to a child outside the marriage, it triggers severe financial penalties. Rebecca explained, scanning the documents, Michael would be at risk of losing majority control of Harrington Holdings if a court found him in violation. However, we'd need proof. Also, if he used company funds to support or hide the affair, that could be grounds for legal action. Emma shook her head, tears brimming. "I don't want to destroy him, Rebecca. I want him to realize what he's throwing away. But if he insists on this path, I won't stand by and be blindsided, especially not for our baby's sake." Rebecca nodded solemnly. "Then we'll proceed carefully. First, see if you can confront him with what you know. If he refuses to come clean, we'll escalate." Around this time, Sam discovered a piece of information that changed the game. Ava was not pregnant. She had visited a fertility clinic in downtown Miami, presumably looking to stage a believable ruse. Sam found records indicating she'd inquired about how to fake certain hormone levels if tested. The more Sam dug, the more he uncovered a labyrinth of half-truths about Ava's finances. Her shipping fortune was a fraction of what she boasted, and she was swimming in debt due to reckless spending and failed deals across Europe. Emma realized that Ava's real plan was to con Michael. Perhaps she wanted a hefty settlement or even a stake in his empire by claiming a child that didn't exist. But how to prove it without tipping Ava off too soon? The penthouse was quiet unnervingly. So, the only sounds were the faint hum of the city outside, and the rhythmic ticking of the antique grandfather clock in the corner. Emma sat on the edge of the couch, hands folded tightly in her lap, her heart pounding in time. With the seconds, she was still dressed in a silk robe, her hair loosely tied back, but her face was set with grim determination. Tonight was the night. No more pretending. No more hoping it would pass. She was done being passive. It was past midnight when she heard the elevator's soft chime. The doors slid open with a hiss, and Michael stepped into their penthouse, loosened tie, askew and jacket slung over his arm. He looked tired, but not in the way of a man worn from work. This was the exhaustion of someone juggling too many lies, too many emotions. The scent of jasmine hit Emma. Before he even spoke, a floral trace she had come to recognize, one that did not belong to her. She rose slowly, steadying herself with one hand on the back of the couch. "We need to talk," she said firmly, voice low but unwavering. Michael froze. "Emma," he said, startled, adjusting his blazer as if trying to regain composure. "It's late. Can we do this tomorrow?" "No," she said. "We're doing this now. Sit down." He hesitated, then lowered himself onto the couch, keeping a cautious distance. The room was charged with silence. "Where were you tonight?" she asked, staring at him. "A business dinner. I told you earlier. Remember?" The Antigua investors needed. Emma held up a hand. "Don't insult me." "Michael, I know where you were. I know who you were," with Michael's jaw tensed. "Emma, I can explain. I hired a private investigator," she interrupted. Her voice cracked slightly, but she quickly steadied it. "I know everything. The dinners, the hotel, the lies. All of it. I have photographs, receipts, a timeline. There's nothing left to explain." The blood drained from his face. His hands, once casually resting on his knees, curled into fists. He leaned forward, face in his hands, exhaling a long, shuddering breath. "God," he muttered. "I didn't mean for it to go this far." Emma's eyes glistened with tears, but she stood her ground. "But it did. And now you have to live with the consequences." He looked up at her, pleading. "Emma, I made a terrible mistake. I got caught up in something. She came out of nowhere. It started with business." And then he trailed off, unable to finish. "Then you betrayed your wife," Emma said sharply. "Your pregnant wife." Her words landed like a slap, and Michael flinched visibly. "I never stopped loving you," he whispered. Emma gave a bitter laugh. "You have a strange way of showing it, sneaking off with a manipulative woman behind my back while I carry your child." Michael's voice rose in frustration. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I was confused. Stressed. She made things easier. She understood my pressure, my work. She listened." Emma's eyes narrowed. "She listened. That's your excuse." She took a step toward him, her voice cold and trembling. "I gave up my career to support your dreams. I stood beside you through every deal, every late night, every press event. I carried this child, our child, while you ran around with someone you barely knew, and now you want sympathy." He dropped his gaze, shame burning through him. "I don't expect sympathy," he said, quietly. I want to fix this." Emma stared at him for a long moment, then sat across from him. She took a deep breath. "It's not just the affair, Michael. It's that you let her manipulate you. Do you even know what she's doing?" He looked up, puzzled. "What do you mean?" Emma leaned forward. "She told you she might be pregnant, right?" He nodded, eyes widening. "She's lying," Emma said. I have evidence. She visited a fertility clinic last week, not because she's pregnant, but because she was trying to figure out how to fake it. She asked about hormone supplements that could manipulate test results. Michael stared at her, stunned. No, she said she wasn't sure yet. She hinted. But I thought maybe. He trailed off, rubbing his temples. She played you, Emma said, and she almost won. He leaned back, eyes unfocused, the weight of it all crashing down. God, what have I done? Emma's voice softened slightly. You gave her power. Michael, you let her into your life. You let her put our marriage, our family, and your entire reputation at risk. But now you have a choice to make. What choice? You end it. Completely no contact. No more meetings. No private arrangements. And you agree to go through every legal step necessary to protect our child and our assets. That includes subjecting her to a legitimate paternity test on our terms, not hers. And if you refuse, I walk. He stared at her, blinking. You'd really leave. Tears streamed down her face. I already feel like I've lost you, Michael, but I won't let her take what little we might still have. Not for our baby's sake. Michael reached across the space between them, taking her hand gently. I'll do it. I'll end it. I'll take the test. Cut her off. Protect you. Please just don't give up on us. Emma looked at his hand in hers, then slowly withdrew it. Words aren't enough anymore. I'll believe it when I see it. She stood her silhouette, framed by the soft glow of city lights behind her. I'll be sleeping in the guest room tonight. You should think about everything you've risked, and everything you still stand to lose. Then without another word, she walked away, leaving Michael alone in the quiet luxury of their penthouse, haunted by the damage he had done. And the fragile thread of hope he prayed wasn't yet severed. The next day, Michael called Ava, determined to end their affair. They met at a secluded cafe near Coconut Grove. He arrived tense and distracted, hardly looking Ava in the eye, sensing his mood. Ava feigned concern. Michael, are you all right? He swallowed hard. I'm not all right, Ava. We need to talk. Ava leaned back in her chair, crossing her legs elegantly. That sounds ominous. Michael steeled himself. I'm ending this. Whatever we had, I can't keep going, it's over. Ava's composure remained unshaken. You realize what that means, don't you? She asked, her voice cool. Michael frowned. What are you talking about? She sighed theatrically. I've spoken to lawyers. Michael, if you abandon me and our potential child, I will sue for paternity tests, child support, and possibly more. I know about your finances. Your empire. You might lose a great deal if you try to sweep this under the rug. Michael's jaw tightened. I want proof, he demanded, voice shaking slightly. Real proof that you're pregnant, and I'm not giving you a dime unless we confirm it. Ava lifted an eyebrow. You think I'm lying. Michael's hands curled into fists under the table. I need an actual test, he said. If you won't agree, then we're done here. Ava paused, her expression flickering. We can arrange it, she said finally. But it has to be done by a doctor of my choice. And if I am pregnant, I expect significant financial guarantees. Michael nearly laughed at the audacity. You're not calling the shots, Ava, he snapped. I am. If you won't do things my way, then take me to court. But be prepared to face my lawyers. He stood abruptly, throwing a wad of cash onto the table for the coffee. You've made a mistake trying to corner me, he muttered before leaving. Ava watched him go, her lips pursed. She had counted on his guilt to keep him in line, but he was showing surprising backbone. Still, she had backup plans, and she wasn't finished. And Back at Harrington Holdings, Michael took immediate steps to sever Ava's ties to the Antigua project, instructing his staff to halt negotiations and freeze any shared funds lawyers were put on notice, and Michael demanded an official paternity test if Ava wanted any claim on him. Emma, meanwhile, strategized behind the scenes, consulting with Rebecca and Sam. They had proof that Ava was not truly pregnant, but they needed to bait her into revealing her deception. A plan took shape if Ava insisted on controlling the narrative by picking the doctor and test procedure. Emma and Michael would arrange for a reputable neutral doctor to be involved as well. Even as they worked together tactically, Emma and Michael were at a crossroads. Emotionally, Emma's trust was shattered, and Michael was racked with guilt. Their conversations were strained and mostly revolved around damage control. "You might not believe me," Michael told Emma, "but I'm done with Ava completely. I want to focus on us and the baby." Emma stared at him, her hand resting protectively over her belly. "It's not that simple, Michael. You broke my heart. We can't just snap our fingers and go back to how things were." He nodded, tears glimmering in his eyes. "I know. All I'm asking is for a chance to prove I can be better." For the first time in weeks, Emma let down her guard, tears rolling down her cheeks. "I hope you mean that," she whispered, "because I don't know how many chances I have left to give." The day had arrived, the one Michael had been dreading, and the one Emma had been preparing for with quiet precision. It was a brisk Thursday morning, and the sky over Miami hung grey and brooding, as though mirroring the storm of emotions roiling beneath the surface for all involved. They met outside a discreet, high-end women's clinic located just off Brickell Avenue. The building didn't boast a large sign or flashy entrance, only a frosted glass door and an elegant silver plaque that read, "Dr. Catherine Brooks, Obstetrics and Gynecology." It was known for confidentiality and professionalism, ideal for high-profile clients like Michael Harrington, and on this day, his mistress Emma arrived first, flanked by her attorney Rebecca Greenfield and the private investigator Sam Morrow, who had uncovered much of Ava's deception. She wore a sleek navy maternity dress, minimal makeup and her hair tied in a low bun. Though her belly was clearly showing now, it only added to her quiet strength. She looked calm, composed, but inside her heart was racing. Michael showed up a few minutes later, alone. He gave Emma a cautious glance, unsure how to greet her. A nod was all he managed. She returned it, then turned her eyes back to the entrance. They didn't speak. At precisely 9:00 a.m., Ava Castillo stepped out of a sleek black town car. She wore oversized sunglasses, a silk scarf tied around her head, and a fitted black dress more suited for a magazine shoot than a medical appointment. She glided up to the door, not expecting to see both Michael and Emma already there. "Good morning," Ava said coolly, her voice dripping with artificial grace. Emma said nothing, but Rebecca stepped forward. "You were informed this would be a legal observation." All parties agreed to be present and to follow the doctor's testing procedures. Ava's lips curled slightly. "Of course, I have nothing to hide. That was a lie, and everyone knew it." Inside, the receptionist checked them in, and they were ushered into a private waiting area, separate from the clinic's general patient rooms. Leather chairs lined the room, and a large abstract painting hung on the wall, meant perhaps to distract from the tension, but there was no escaping the charged air between them. Minutes later, a poised, middle-aged woman in a white coat entered. "Good morning," she said kindly. "I'm Dr. Catherine Brooks." "Thank you for being here. Today's appointment will include an ultrasound and a blood hormone test, both standard procedures for confirming pregnancy." "Miss Castillo." If you'll follow me, we'll begin shortly." Michael stood up. "I'd like to be present for the scan." Emma stood too. "So would I, Doctor." Brooks nodded. "Given the circumstances and legal presence, I understand. Let's proceed." Ava hesitated for the first time, her smile faltering. "I didn't think everyone would be in the room," she said. "We agreed to transparency," Rebecca said firmly, "unless you have a reason to object." Ava forced a smile. "Of course not." The exam room was softly lit with pale green walls and a whirring ultrasound machine in the corner. Ava climbed onto the padded table with practiced ease, pulling up her dress and positioning herself as instructed. Emma stood to the side with her arms crossed, while Michael hovered near the chair beside the machine. Visibly nervous, Dr. Brooks applied gel to Ava's abdomen and pressed the ultrasound wand gently against her skin. The screen flickered with static. Silence filled the room. Seconds passed, then more. Dr. Brooks adjusted the wand, her eyes narrowing slightly. "Just a moment," she said, turning a few dials and shifting the angle. Emma watched intently. Her breath caught in her throat, her hands trembling slightly. Michael was on edge. Is everything okay?" Dr. Brooks's voice remained even. "Normally by now we'd see a gestational sac at the very least, but I'm not seeing anything that suggests pregnancy." Ava's eyes widened. "That can't be right." Dr. Brooks looked at her. "Miss Castillo, have you had any spotting cramping or other symptoms that might indicate a miscarriage or complications?" Ava sat up slightly. "No, none. I've felt fine. A little tired, maybe." "Then it's odd," Dr. Brooks said. "There is no sign of a fetus. No sac. No uterine thickening. The ultrasound indicates that you're not currently pregnant." Ava's tone turned defensive. "Well, maybe I'm earlier than I thought. Or maybe the equipment is off. I took a test. I know what I felt, Doctor." Brooks remained professional. "It's possible, but unlikely, given your claims of symptoms. We can run a blood test for HCG levels that will give us a definitive answer." "Do it," Ava snapped. "I want it done today." Emma stepped forward. Her voice was calm but cutting. "Funny how eager you are now that the truth is catching up." Ava glared. "Don't think you've won anything, Emma. This isn't a contest," Emma said. "This is about truth, and you've spent months running from it." The nurse came in quickly, drawing blood from Ava's arm. As she did, Ava looked away. Her jaw clenched. Michael watched, silent and ashamed. He couldn't believe how deeply he'd allowed himself to be manipulated. Dr. Brooks closed her file. "Results will be available by the end of the day. You'll each receive a copy, and our office will certify it for legal use." As Ava stepped down from the table, she turned to Michael. "Whatever the test says, I didn't deserve to be ambushed like this." He looked her straight in the eye. "What you deserve is the truth, and so do I." Outside the clinic, the air was thick with humidity. Emma walked ahead without a word, Rebecca at her side. Michael followed his pace slower. Ava remained behind, making a show of adjusting her sunglasses before slipping into her car. No one spoke until Emma reached her own vehicle. She turned to Michael before getting in. "If it comes back negative, and I know it will, you're cutting her off completely, no exceptions." Michael nodded, eyes weary. "I already have." Emma's voice dropped to a whisper. "Good. Because this is your last chance to start making things right." As the car pulled away, Emma finally exhaled, her hand resting on her belly. No matter what happened next, the worst was nearly over. The truth was no longer hiding in shadows. It was coming into the light, and Ava Castillo, for all her manipulation, was about to lose everything. As expected, the blood test confirmed that Ava was not pregnant. She tried to claim she had miscarried, but there was no medical evidence to support this. She offered up excuses about incompetent doctors and potential scheduling errors, but her lies only grew more desperate and transparent. Michael's legal team promptly served Ava with cease and desist letters, demanding she refrain from any public statements implying a relationship or pregnancy with him. They threatened defamation lawsuits if she proceeded to sabotage Michael's reputation. With the affair now fully exposed, Ava's hold on him crumbled, yet Ava did not back down quietly. Enraged at losing her leverage, she began feeding rumors to tabloid journalists. She leaked gossip, suggesting Michael had coerced her into an affair and then heartlessly abandoned her. She implied that Michael had used company funds to support their secret child, and that Emma was complicit in covering it up. While major outlets hesitated to publish unverified claims, a few scandal-hungry gossip sites splashed the story with sensational headlines. Within days, social media platforms buzzed with speculation. Yes, Michael Harrington trended briefly on Twitter, and hateful comments filled the Harrington Foundation's public pages. Emma felt her blood boil every time she scrolled through vile messages accusing her of turning a blind eye to Michael's cheating or driving him to it. The media storm threatened to overshadow the real philanthropic work Emma had dedicated herself to. Sponsors and donors began to ask questions. Some politely withdrew from upcoming events, citing concerns about negative press. Emma realized that Ava's final strike was to tarnish not just Michael, but also everything Emma held. Dear Emma decided enough was enough. Over the course of a few sleepless nights, she devised a calculated plan to publicly counter Ava's lies. She collaborated with Michael's crisis management advisors and carefully drafted a statement to be released on both Harrington Holdings and the Harrington Foundation's official channels. Before finalizing it, though, Emma took the lead on a more personal approach. Calling in a favor from an old friend in the mainstream press, Emma set up an exclusive interview with the Miami Herald. The friend was investigative journalist Julian Perez, known for fair coverage and an aversion to tabloid theatrics. Emma handed him key evidence: the results of Ava's fake pregnancy test, the suspicious background checks and private investigator Sam's findings about Ava's fraudulent claims in Europe. In return, Emma asked for a chance to tell her story, the real story without sensationalism. Julian, appreciative of the exclusivity, agreed to run a comprehensive piece. When the article went live, it laid out a factual timeline of Ava's deception, including screenshots of her texts implying pregnancy, the official medical test results disproving it, and notes on her shady financial dealings. To Emma's credit, the article did not shy away from Michael's infidelity, acknowledging that trust had been broken. However, it placed the blame for the pregnancy hoax squarely on Ava. Emma also gave a heartfelt statement to the press, explaining that while her marriage was going through turmoil, she would continue focusing on her philanthropic commitments. She expressed empathy for anyone, especially women who might feel wronged or manipulated, but she insisted that spreading falsehoods harmed real people and worthy causes. The combination of hard evidence and Emma's sincerity proved devastating for Ava's credibility. Public sentiment shifted, painting Ava as a con artist who preyed on Michael's weaknesses. Though some critics remained, especially those who condemned Michael's affair, the mainstream narrative turned against Ava. Sponsors who had distanced themselves from the Harrington Foundation quietly resumed support, and even the board of Harrington Holdings stood united behind Michael and Emma, albeit with a stern reminder that such personal scandals should never again jeopardize the corporation. Ava Castillo's social standing eroded quickly. She found herself unwelcome in elite circles, her reputation tainted by her attempts to deceive. She left Miami for Europe, where rumors indicated She was trying to rebrand herself in private business deals. Nobody at Harrington Holdings bothered to track her movements. As for Michael, he faced a private reckoning with Emma. Their marriage was in a precarious place. Even after discrediting Ava's lies and ensuring the safety of their child's future, they were still plagued by the raw wound of betrayal. One evening, Emma invited Michael to join her on their penthouse balcony. The Miami skyline stretched out before them, vibrant and full of possibility. Emma, now well into her pregnancy, rested a hand on her belly. "Do you want to know the baby's gender?" she asked, her voice subdued. Michael nodded quietly, yes. Emma took a breath. "It's a girl," she said, tears filling her eyes. "Our daughter." He inhaled sharply, eyes moist. Without a word, he closed the distance between them and placed a tentative hand over hers. Emma didn't pull away. "Emma," he began, his voice shaking. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I want to be here. For you and for her. I will do whatever it takes to make this right." Emma looked out at the lights, glittering across Biscayne Bay, thinking of the life she once believed was perfect. She was no longer the naive woman who believed in fairy tale romances. She had grown tougher, sharper, but still harbored a deeply caring heart, Michael. She said at last, meeting his eyes, "Trust isn't something we can snap back into place. It takes time, effort, and honesty every single day. If you can promise me that maybe we can find our way back." He nodded earnestly. "I promise." Time passed, and with counseling, open conversations, and Michael's unwavering commitment to making amends, the Harringtons began to rebuild. Emma was cautious, determined not to lose herself in the process. She kept investing more time in the Harrington Foundation, expanding its influence in educational reforms. Michael, no longer enthralled by the adrenaline rush of new conquests, be they properties or forbidden relationships, focused his energy on regaining Emma's trust. His business sense remained sharp, but he took a step back from the constant churn of expansions, delegating more to a competent executive team so he could be present at home. When their daughter, Lily Rose Harrington, was born at Mount Sinai Medical Center in Miami, she arrived wailing and healthy, bringing a surge of emotion that felt like both closure and a fresh beginning. Michael cradled the tiny newborn in his arms, tears cascading freely. Emma looked on her heart, torn between residual pain and a blossoming hope. "Hello, Lily," Michael whispered, pressing his lips to her soft forehead. Emma, exhausted but radiant, felt a wave of love for this innocent life they had created. Outside the hospital room, flashbulbs popped as local newspapers covered the high-profile birth of the Harrington heiress. Social media buzzed with well-wishes, a stark contrast to the scandal that had once threatened to tarnish their name. And somewhere across the Atlantic, Ava Castillo likely saw the headlines, realizing her attempts at manipulation had ultimately failed. Emma, gazing at her newborn daughter silently, thanked fate that they had weathered the storm. They were far from perfect, but they had emerged stronger, bound by lessons learned the hard way. Life would never be the same, nor would the Harringtons' marriage, but in this new chapter, they had a chance to chart a path guided by honesty, loyalty, and love. What began as a glittering empire threatened by a cunning mistress, and the temptations of wealth ended with a family forging a stronger bond from the ashes of betrayal. Michael Harrington realized that success without integrity is hollow, and Emma discovered an unshakable resilience within herself, fueled by her love for their unborn child. Although their story was scarred by secrets and heartbreak, they emerged hand in hand, dedicated to building a future that truly mattered. Thank you for joining us on this emotional journey of love, deception, and redemption. if you found this real-life drama as gripping as we did, make sure to hit the like button, share the video with friends who love twists and turns, and subscribe to our channel for more intense and captivating stories. Your support drives us to bring you more enthralling tales. Stay tuned and remember, sometimes the final move belongs to the one you least expect.